Hey there, I'm your host, Ray Lobos, a software engineer and senior staff instructor at LinkedIn Learning. And today we're talking to Jerome Hardaway, the founder of Vets Who Code, a senior software engineer at Microsoft, and a previous GitHub star. How's it going, Jerome?
Hey, how are you doing? It's going pretty good. I'm excited for today's talk.
Yeah, it's super excited to have you here. Thank you so much for coming. It's really an honor to have you here. Now, for everybody else who just tuned into the show, I usually run a poll every week. And this is the poll that I ran. Basically, which of these technologies are you most likely to implement in your DevOps plans this coming year? And you can see the results as of, I think, yesterday. What do you think about this, Jerome?
I was on this poll. I did this poll, and
Hmm.
I decided the code assistance and generation. That's where I've seen when it comes to DevOps the most success metrics in my past work. But I think monitoring should have been voted higher than
Yeah.
AI driven tested. So I mean, this is essentially what people are actually going to be using it for, or looking forward to use it for. I'm right there with them in regards to code assistance and generation, but um, I would like to experience more with the monitoring and AI side. I think that would
Yeah,
be a great way amplify it.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't really, maybe the tools, and we're going to talk about some of these tools later on, but maybe some of the tools that are doing some of the exciting, like DevOps works, and things that I think would help developers are not getting the press that some of these other tools are getting. So I think that's maybe where some of the results from the poll come from. So let's see if I will be taking questions. I am not sure if my application is doing them well, so I might have to do a little bit of copy and paste. So bear with me, but we will try to answer your questions. Just put them in the chat wherever you're coming from, and we'll get to them at a specific part of the show. So let's talk a little bit about just your experience. People are probably really curious about your experience with Microsoft as a senior software engineer. What's your role there, and what kind of things do you get into?
Roger that. I am a software engineer on ISE, when now being called People Technologies, where we get to work with the top uh, 50 Azure clients and help them create solutions that make their companies better. It's um, it's super fun. It's one of my favorite jobs. It's coming close to my favorite job at comicbook.com with at CBS. But the best way to say it is, I get to learn all day, and I get to apply that stuff and learn and do like cool things I didn't even know was possible, or hear and watch cool projects that I was like, oh, that's interesting. So, having the opportunity to have impact on projects that are going to be in the wild when it comes to IoT or computer vision, or data engineering is, super cool. And they help me a lot with my endeavors on my nonprofit work as well. I'm able to donate my time back to the nonprofit, because all the work I do is pro bono in nonprofit. So uh, Microsoft, they help cover that, and it's, and my team is very supportive. So it's super cool all the way around. I'm very excited to be here. I hope to be here at least a few more years before I'm too old and I need to like actually be a executive director all the time.
Yeah, so you're pretty. This is a pretty new position for you, so that's been a little bit of an adjustment. Yeah, so talk about maybe a lot of people, of course, would love to work for Microsoft. I'd love to hear a little bit about the path that you took to get there, and maybe you can talk about some of the things that have really helped you in taking you there.
Sure. So the path, I don't come from a traditional software engineering path. I'm uh, prior military, was U.S. Air Force Security Forces. Left the military during the height of the Great Recession. Literally saw a commercial about people talking about coding. Was wondering what this was. Picked up a book on SQL at Barnes and Nobles and read about it and started teaching myself SQL. And a year later, I was working for Department of Homeland Security,
Wow.
doing analytics. So that is like my initial path into tech, and then moving on, took a break, focusing on learning a lot about marketing and digital marketing, things of that nature, then moved back into software engineering with Ruby on Rails, then Angular on Rails, and I
Wow.
absolutely couldn't stand that. PHP, learned to hate PHP, and then just started focusing more on React. Starting with React on Rails, absolutely love being able to use React as my UI, and then utilize Rails as the API layer. And moved on further to just full time React. And now I am at Microsoft and as a software engineer on CSE, ISE, I apologize. We end up having to use multiple languages, so we have to upskill and then apply it. So I have done things in Scala, Python, and Java and TypeScript at Microsoft in this short amount of time. So that's pretty much it. I think for me, the biggest secret. Well, I don't feel like it's a secret. I feel like the biggest secret though is to do your work in public, right? Having
Mm.
a product that people can see and people can do and people can watch your growth, right? When you put up your first portfolio, it's just, a highlight reel of things you're doing. But then when you add a blog to it, and then you're blogging and things, and then you're talking about your, CI/CD that you're using with GitHub Actions, and then you're talking about, accessibility changes that you're doing at work and how you apply that. As people see you grow within your understanding of technology and seeing you continue to push, they, they actually look for you. My story with Microsoft is my opportunity came through a DM. My original manager said, "Hey, I've been seeing your work for a while. I would love for you to come work for me." And that was how I ended up applying and going through the process. So just focusing on doing great work and pushing really helped me. Get noticed and get into Microsoft, being able to do the work. Still had to pass the interview process,
Mm.
which is fun. I actually like this interview process. It was a
Yeah,
five.
talk a little bit about that. That should be pretty interesting too. Yeah.
Yeah, so the interview they call it loops, and on my in my organization, and it was 5 person. There was technical, there was behavioral, there was some social things, and I think my my M3, he tried to
Hmm.
talk me out of the he tried to talk me out of the job. He
What?
was like, "Now, yeah," he was like, "Now I know you're a specialist." But
Hmm.
you will not be able to be a specialist at this job. You're going to have to be a generalist, and things are going to be moving fast sometimes and slow, and fast and slow. It's like, oh, so it's like hurry up and wait in the military. I can do this. And so he's like, are you sure? And I was like, yes. And the next thing you know, I was like, cool. I'll be. There was. I was able to talk through the process of how I would build something at scale. And the one thing that I really loved about the Microsoft interview process was there is a before you get into the interview loop, at least for me, there was a technical screening before when they would ask you to, they would meet with someone to see you met the values and how you think as technologists. And he asked me how I would build an application that would require people to quickly sync up a different video chats, like a video chat service
Mm.
for like Cerebral or something like that. That'd be a great example of the type of service they were looking at. And I was talking through it, and because I'm a front end developer by trade, I started from the UI and UX experience for the user because to me that's important. Then I started getting into the API layer and the cloud layer and that type of that server layer. He was like, "You're the first person that I ever seen put the customer first
Mm.
in your decision of um, how to make your app." He's like, "That's very impressive." So, that was something, where especially front end developers, front end software engineers, they think that their skills won't be as easily translatable to larger stacks or deeper stacks. But that was a great example that I had where I was like, being that really helped me because to him it was very shocking that hey, you actually before you went into nerding out about APIs and cloud services and stuff, you were thinking about the user already. So I was like, I mean,
That's
yeah, that's what I
fantastic. That's so
do.
the I wonder now if that sort of approach of telling you that it wasn't for you was like a trick question. They were trying to egg and giving you more like,
Of
oh,
course,
what?
I
Yeah.
think of course, it was to try to see my resolve, and it's it's cool, but it's also funny because, like I said, I'm a combat veteran, so so when they try to jar me with the whole processes of let's see if we can put somebody who can mimic being someone hard to work with. That was part of
Hmm.
my interview process. The person was asking questions, they're being terse or rough, they were cutting me off, all this stuff. And I was like, I
Wow.
can stay calm with this. I've dealt with so much worse. So
Yeah, I know.
so
You
it
ain't
was
seen nothing, right? That's
yeah,
awesome. That's awesome.
it was very fun. And then I had this one there was this one interview that was very empathic and I really enjoyed it. And they were like, that was actually the hardest interview because this person said that you were a no-go no matter how smart you were. We were like, you know, not gonna hire you. Doesn't matter.
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, that makes me feel better that I, actually not a jerk at least 80% of the time.
Hmm.
So, that like I said, the interview process was, to me, it was amazing. It was, in the Air Force, we had a term called total person concept because, the idea of, yeah, the idea that, you're in the military, you have to bring all of you is graded, not just your job performance, but what you do on your off time. That's graded, especially in the Air Force, right? How you volunteer, what you volunteer, all that stuff is part of your grades to for your annual report. So it felt a lot like, hey, we want to hire the person, not just the programming skills. So and that meant a lot to me. So I enjoyed it.
I see like a lot of really cool things about that process that, all the stuff you're talking about, how they're trying to ask you questions that let them know how you think, which is great. Your experience in front end development kind of you sort of give you a leg up because you're thinking about, you stand out, like you're thinking about the problems in a slightly different way than what they're used to. So I can see a lot of ways in which you stood out, and that really does help you. Your experiences under pressure, totally. I mean, because that is such a high pressure situation, being in a job interview when you don't know what they want, and so really good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about DevOps itself, because I think a lot of developers don't know what that that is. Like, I had a hard time until I had another interview recently, understanding the concept. And I feel like people who are developers might not know what that is. So can you talk a little bit about how that relates to maybe all developer jobs, maybe define what it is, and what sort of skills do you need to get into it?
Roger that. So DevOps is short for developer operations, and what that means is here are the processes and practices that we need to do to be able to ensure that we have smooth consistency, continuous integration, and continuous delivery of our web app to our customers or our users, right?
Hmm.
So that is essentially what that job means. Now, the prerequisites for that job is you have to have the strongest skill set that I've seen and that benefits is your ability to script or work in a terminal or bash, whichever one you prefer. That is, you're going to spend a lot of time there. Strong programming fundamentals, coding fundamentals are going to be very very important in this part because you're not going to be dealing with a lot of the fancier coding practices, but the
Hmm.
fundamentals are going to help because you need to quickly pick up a lot of skills. You might be working in YAML, then you might work in Python, you might work in Java. Those are like the type of languages that tend to be used a lot with DevOps. Then you have to think about your process of automating and cloud services, right? So, are you automating the parts that we know are going to be repetitive, right? We
Hmm.
dry, don't repeat yourself. So if there's a component, like when such similar to how you do with GitHub Actions, right? You
Hmm.
go in there and you set up your actions so that way this gets kicked off every time this PR gets merged into prod, right? So now we go through these steps over and over and over again. But GitHub Actions handles that. That's a great example of how DevOps works, right? And that's a very low level opportunity for people who are trying to understand DevOps to go on GitHub, get in GitHub Actions, start building out actions for their own portfolios or websites and go through that process on their own. So that's a great thing. And then, cloud services. So, whether it's Azure, because, I have to say Azure because I work at Microsoft, or AWS, or, I promise I'm not selling. I just don't want to, like, my boss see this and be like, yo,
That's
you left
right.
us out, Tom. Like, yo, Jay, what's up? And so that's one of the things that I definitely recommend is understanding, your cloud skills
Mhm,
as well. Like, you don't have to be the strongest cloud practitioner, but you have to understand them, right? But the stronger you are, the
mhm.
better. But being a generalist in coding, understanding good code practices when it comes to the fundamentals, understanding automation, strong scripting skills, and also that testing. Testing can be another big component of being able to make sure that the tests run. A lot of automated testing comes into place when you're doing DevOps as well. So those are pretty much all the things that you need. And when you look at AI with DevOps, it's like the perfect marriage, right?
Mm,
Because you're already automating so much because you want to build that type of trust in a program. So as we get closer to like zero trust protocols, AI is a great amplifier of your skill set to ensure that, hey, we're building more trust into our DevOps software engineering lifecycle,
yeah,
right?
that's what I
So
was
that
thinking, that it's really not only is it a fantastic thing for somebody who's maybe a developer who wants to try something else, it's a great sort of transition. Because you're saying understand, coding, you have to kind of know what to automate. But then also, it's getting a lot of, help. We'll get a lot of help from AI tools, but then also make sure that you'll understand, or what's going to make you valuable is understanding the different platforms, whether it's like Google, Microsoft, AWS, all those are platforms. So I think if you have experience with at least one platform, it'd probably be good for you. And really, all developers are actually that work in the field are doing some of that already. And I think that, like everything else, if you enjoy it, then maybe that's something that you should pursue. But you mentioned AI and how that's really changing things. What sort of things are you most excited about when it comes to like DevOps and AI?
Well, based on your poll, the thing that I am very
Hmm.
excited about is the generative coding aspect of it, right?
Mm,
Because one of the things with DevOps is based upon your skill set. You may not be familiar with a language that, this this requires, right? Like, especially if, let's say, the last time you touched YAML was when Ruby
mm,
on Rails was like super popular, right? That's like 2015. So now it's 2023 now, and now you have to do YAML for
y-
Terraform application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my application, go into my text editor, open VS Code. I have Copilot running, and then on my right side of my side panel, I also have Copilot Labs, and I'm going to be once I do my backslash and ask Copilot to write a template for initial DevOps tools and initial DevOps code in YAML. I'm also going to go to Copilot Labs and I'm going to look over there and see, is this the right way? If I was to do this in another language, how would I do it? So maybe I can use a language that I'm more comfortable with. Like, all right, if I did this in Python, how would that
mm,
be reflected in YAML? Right, and then going forward in that ideology. So that is where AI plays a part. It's like I said, it's an amplifier. You
mm,
still have to know your stuff, but it also puts guardrails essentially on the things you don't know, and it gives you opportunities to go deeper in the practice of the thing you're looking for because you don't have to focus so much on learning that hard skill, so you can learn the theories, the best practices, things of that nature, right? Versus you already know how to code. So
mhm.
if I'm like, oh, you have to do from Python to Scala now, and you're like, oh no, and I have to learn Scala. Well, if you know Python and we have this AI and it can morph what you write in Python into Scala, that problem has been solved. So now you can focus on the problem you're trying to solve and not learning a new language, right? So
Yeah.
that's where that's very exciting for me.
So yeah, what I like about developers is that good ideas can tend to sort of propagate everywhere. Like you mentioned YAML, and that's something that you use in GitHub Actions. Like for example, that's something that I think you use in Docker containers. Like you see the same good ideas kind of propagate. So
Yes.
one of the surprising things is that when you start doing like a job that you feel maybe it's something completely new. You're like, oh, I know this. Oh, I know this. Oh, I know this. And it's actually an easier transition into some of those things. So I think maybe being, like you said, or like in the pre-show, I think you talked about like being a generalist is really important. And, that being open to new things, having definitely a conviction for learning and adapting to things is great. So I think people in the armed forces would be actually probably this would be a good job for them as well. Things change all the time.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you're concerned about? There's a lot of talk about AI is going to take our jobs. Everybody's going to get fired. They're gonna get all the codes, and it's going to be World War III. Anything concerning, or what do you think? What do you think about those sort of thoughts?
So going backwards from your last question to first, it's a lot harder to have a nuclear attack than
Yes.
just having the codes. There's a lot more in place than just having
Yeah.
codes. So that's okay, right? There's no Skynet thing going down.
Oh, okay.
Secondly, AI is going to create more jobs than it's going to take away, even if it takes away anything, because once again, like I said, it's an amplifier. There are going to be people who have to be specialized. They're going to have to be subject matter experts on the AI that you're working at, that you're using at work. They're going to have to be lawyers that specialize in AI to
Hmm.
see, okay, how do we use this to protect this, right? You don't right now. You don't have a lot of companies have lawyers that also specialize in the legality of AI with the tools, right? Think of the concept of a company that does mortgages, right? If you're using
Hmm.
AI to, build those those loan packages, and like look at the client, the part of the lawyer's job is to ensure that the AI hasn't been trained on data that may have it, show bias or prejudice against people, right?
Hmm.
So that's going to be a huge boom as AI comes uh, more popular. We have already AI policies being written up in colleges in um, in Australia, and being banned in other colleges because of how people are leveraging it. Right? People are using AI to write research papers, but they're not checking all the work. So AI isn't perfect right now, but it's going to get better, and it's just going to be an amplifier of what you do. But you're still going to have to know it. If anything, I think you and I, we both agree on this, where AI isn't going to take your job. The person that knows how to use AI really well is going to be the person that takes you. This is what's going to take your job. So like that's how I look at it. I've been using AI in multiple components of my life for
Hmm.
about the past 3 years. I've used Copilot, Copy AI, Grammarly, Canvas AI. My camera is Lumina, and it has a cameraman feature where it uses AI to move around and follow me. So
Yeah, I'm really
I've
digging that,
been
by the way. Yeah.
thank you. Like I love it.
People,
Um,
up to now, I think people were thinking I was some sort of guru with like the application, but no, it's all the AI actually.
yeah, so I've been a huge fan of
Hmm.
AI, especially as a person that does for-profit work at work and then has to pivot to nonprofit. Right? I
Hmm.
have to be able to amplify my skill set and time, and AI does that, masterfully. I'm nothing
Hmm.
without my team members, but AI helps me come and be the best team member. I liken it to being like the Sam Wilson version of
That's
Captain
right.
America. Like, I don't have super strength, but I have, vibranium wings and two drones. So
That's
like
right.
that's
It's
something,
not just
right?
it's Captain America plus. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So
So,
like that is, that's the logic that,
mhm.
you should bring to the table when it comes to AI. It's
Yeah,
like,
so
hey,
basically
how do
we've
I
all like become cyborgs now, or like, we all can be enhanced. We don't need a new mutation in our genes or anything. We could just take on the AI and I think that's also true. Like you mentioned about the we're going to be replaced by people who know how to use it. That's our competition now. Like we're competing against people that understand these things. I love using generative AI and ChatGPT to like summarize big articles, like when I don't have time to read, and I use it for maybe like not necessarily coming up with the tweets, but if you have an article and you want to make a tweet about it, I'll tell it like, hey, make a tweet out of this, and it'll just condense like all of the main points. And then I always end up rewriting it because this doesn't sound like me. Maybe, you know, maybe it will eventually, how to write like me. But in the meantime, it's just a fantastic tool to like be able to summarize things and to ask it questions. I know some of the knowledge is limited to 2021 and before, but it's a fantastic tool. So talk a little bit about your time as a GitHub star, and people always want to know what that is. I got to go to GitHub Universe this last year, and I got to meet some of the stars, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. Like, can you define that and share with
Uh,
us what it's about?
All right, so the GitHub Star program is a program that showcases the first year was they picked 100 people who are really impactful in open source as well as impactful in community. So that is the process thing. So your project has to be impactful to developers and people in general. And that is how they select their talent. You have people like Angie Jones, people. I think Wes Boss is one. Maybe I can't verify, can't remember, but I definitely know Angie. She's one.
Mhm.
They use open source to enrich people's lives on GitHub as well as on within outside of GitHub, right? And that's how it's done. The program is phenomenal. I've been a Google developer expert. I've been a cloudinary media dev. I've been um, man, I've been on Adobe, I've done all of it, but the one that I have enjoyed the most was the GitHub Stars program. It was fun. Like Monica Powell, she's an amazing person when it comes to GitHub tooling and things of that nature. She's like Monica and Cassidy. I love both of their work.
Yeah,
Um,
Cassidy is so funny. He cracks me up
yeah,
whenever.
she's
Loves
hilarious. Yeah,
keywords, super sharp. I mean, but also it's hard to be funny and sharp. I'm telling you, I'm working on it. It's not perfect yet, but yeah, super cool. So people can go to
she's
this
amazing, man.
stars.github.com. Yeah, and that's awesome. Yeah, I love that. There's a lot of companies out there that can do it, that spend their resources providing things to the community that help everybody. So this is a super great program.
If you
Yeah,
have no other like thing to motivate you to do it, I have to tell you, the swag from GitHub Stars is the best swag I've ever seen in my life. Like they know how to welcome you.
I
I
got a
have one
little
of those.
mug.
I have
Very
the
nice.
Ember.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
Oh,
so
wow.
what is it? Yeah, so I
Nice,
have an Ember
nice.
mug like that they sent me, and these headphones. These are like my favorite headphones, and they sent like a little stream deck. I had one already, so I like gave it to one of my teenagers. It's like, yo, this is nice. This would be
So
awesome for
everyone
grandma.
apply for the swag. I
Yes,
have to
and the
say, like,
stickers and
I'm
the
partially ashamed to say that I wear a lot, like pretty much what I wear is, clothing from companies that I love. And I feel like at least 30% of all my clothing is GitHub clothing. And you've seen it. Like if you watch my courses, I snuck it in before, we had any sort of partnership. And yeah, I wear a lot of like GitHub stuff really everywhere again because uh, when I open my drawers, it's all like 30% of my stuff is all, if not more. I'm
I
ashamed to say
have
it might be more.
I have the GitHub README project hoodie,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's so warm. So like whenever it's
yeah.
cold outside, I explicitly go, no, let me get my GitHub README project hoodie because it's 40 degrees outside. I'm not playing with this weather. Let me go ahead and I'll prepare accordingly. So, but yeah, I love that
All right, so
program. I definitely recommend if you're doing something particularly in education and impact and open
mm,
source, apply.
do that.
And
Awesome.
it's a great group of people there.
Super. So let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that were maybe on that poll. So I mentioned in that poll like automated testing, and you did talk a little bit about automation. Do you see where do you see AI playing? Sort of doing some of that, and have you seen anything that is kind of helping with testing and those other kinds of automation?
I believe I've seen a company, Dynatrace and Diff Blue. They're both been doing some work on the automation testing
Hmm.
front. However, when it comes to automation with the testing component and I would like, for instance, the way I would like for it to work is for AI to be able to understand the test,
Hmm.
the test better, help write better automated testing, right? Understanding,
Hmm.
hey, maybe it needs, when you're thinking about proper code coverage, maybe you may miss something that needs to be covered that the AI picks up. It's like, hey, this is a critical piece of the code base. It needs to have automated testing on, right? Or it automatically identifies those areas that need automated testing, right? So like it automatically scaffolds those files and puts the generic code in there so that you can start editing and it starts giving you a recommendation, right? That is an area that I would definitely want to see more when it comes to automated testing. Is more of the thinking about being able to read your code base and thinking more like, hey, this looks important. This looks,
Mm.
how would we get AI to identify those critical components of your code base, right? Like what
Mm.
is critical, right? So some companies it's the things that are revenue generating. Some companies it's for advertising. So you have to be able, or subscriptions, login, things of that nature. So you have to be able to identify that. Usually it's the programmer that does that.
Hmm.
Like we're in planning meetings and we're talking about these things. But what if the AI did a lot of that heavy lifting for you and you were able to, just be along for the ride and like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing, but we need to maybe amend it this way. You're able to think deeper about how to solve these problems, while the generic part
Mm.
is already done for you, right? Like that is where I would like to see um, more usage in play when it comes to testing.
Yeah, you did mention that you use things that are not necessarily, I guess maybe some of the work that you were doing with GitHub Stars and, Microsoft, you in Vetsa Code as well. Like you did mention, I think Copy AI or some other tools that you use. What are some of the things that you really kind of enjoy in the AI work that's being done out there, besides like technical tools?
Copy AI and Canva AI. Those are my two favorite right now. Microsoft Designer AI as well.
Mm-hmm.
I played with that like 2 days ago. It I was like, oh, make something super patriotic, and it was like,
Hmm.
oh, and it did that. Copy AI. I've been using for a lot of my work with my trying to find the right words to do my writing, my talks, prepping for my scripts for courses, things of that
Hmm.
nature. And It's been really helpful for me. Like I'll sit here with my legal pad and I'll write the outline, and then I'll put the outline to Kak AI, and then oh, this sounds like a human actually said this, and let me, I don't use that word, so let me take that word out. uh, so that is, yeah, it's like, oh, you have me sounding smarter than I am. I don't want anybody to ask me what that word means, so let's get rid of it. And that's why because I'm a big writer.
Hmm.
I think that's my favorite one, especially when it comes
You
to
also
tweets
mentioned, I
or
think, Canva AI. So
yes.
so how does, before you get into Canva, like how does Copy AI compare to something like ChatGPT? Is there any sort of difference between the two, or some advantage to like Copy AI?
I think the difference is you can pick your target, right, with
Hmm. Hmm.
Copy AI. Like I can say, okay, here's what I want to do, but I want to do it just for Twitter. So
Hmm.
you need to make this coherent for Twitter, like for the constraints that Twitter has, or for LinkedIn, or if I want to make it for a blog post and I want the blog post to be informational, and
Hmm.
I need to ensure that I sound like a expert, right?
Hmm.
So that's where you can really drill down with Comp AI, which is super cool because it's a company coming from my hometown, Memphis. So
Hmm.
like huge shout out to the guys at Copy AI for the work. Like there's very few really cool tech companies coming out of my hometown. So
Hmm.
to find out that Copy AI was from Memphis really made me like, oh, okay, round of applause. Um, yeah, so that's where I like best Canva AI. It really, particularly if you have like Canva scheme, like if you have like your themes, your theme colors, like with bits of code is red, white, and blue. You can sit there and say, all right, so we're going to use these colors, and then I need this for Instagram, and I want these type of words on it, but I also want these words to be designed well in a sans serif font that also is accessible. Like they can pick that, like they can pick the right. Oh, we might do this, or we could use a light yellow here, something like that. Okay, so that is how for a person like me whose design eye has deteriorated since they've not been in front end and playing with UIs and UXs for so long, it really helps me be able to amplify or just solve problems, right? Thankfully now I have a Yumi who does a lot of my like design stuff for me,
Hmm.
but when it comes to that stuff, but when I try to like do it on my own, I always go to Canva AI first because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna mess this up if I just try to, if I'm just out here uh, freewheeling on the internet on my own. But yeah, like those are right now,
That's
those are my two favorites. I want to play more of the Microsoft Designer AI to get a better feel of it, but I feel like you also have to train it a little bit more. So that's what my goal is going to do over the next month or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's so amazing to see what is happening with all these tools, and it seems like it's happening so much quicker than, like it feels like other things took a lot longer to get here, where just the whole industry sort of just exploding. Like, how are they able to do all that stuff so quickly? Like all these amazing tools so fast. It seems like the web was really slow, but now it's just like an explosion of things.
But that's part about technology, right? As
Hmm.
things get better, new technologies, new things, they catch on incrementally faster. Like we had this conversation about crypto, metaverse, and I believe what is the other thing that was supposed to catch on that didn't catch on like this, like AI
Oh, Web
has.
3 or something, or
Web
yeah.
three, yeah. So they haven't caught on like this because AI has made it so much easier for a person to like get connected and be able to use it even if they don't have a lot of technology
Mm.
experience, right? You can go and use Lensa and make, for $3.99, like make 100 photos of you like from dystopia future to being a superhero to being what looks like an eternal. So like, it's a big difference, right? You can now do AI on your iPhone and make a bunch of cool profile pics, or if you're a journalist, you go to Copy AI and it can help you write your next piece while also going to Grammarly and make sure that you don't, like if you like me, you want to make sure you don't sound like a country bumpkin. Going Grammarly and like, hey, can you get rid of all of the all the words in the wrong place? Thank you. Thanks a lot. So that is that's the real strength of it, is using it for things that aren't tech versus,
Mm.
oh, it's only locked into this like very small community. And I think technologists in general, we don't think of it like that. We don't see how small we are
Hmm.
in relation or correlation to the general public. So that is why AI has just exploded. It's because everybody has access to it. If you want to know something, you can go play with Chat GPT or go
Hmm.
on Lensa or Canva AI, and they've made it accessible, which makes it grow faster, right?
I think that the greatest thing that I heard you say is that basically AI is the strength of AI is really helping people with their maybe weaknesses. So like English is my first language, so I find myself struggling sometimes. And so when I write something, I would love for somebody to check it to make sure I didn't do things, didn't do something that my teacher in high school would have clipped me for. And I feel that it's able to do that, and it's able to sort of the thing that I love about ChatGPT is it's able to let me have a conversation with it when I'm brainstorming on something. And this also happens for code. So like as somebody who uses, ChatGPT at the beginning of a project to sort of when I don't know what the code needs to be, it's not like so here's the difference that in my usage, and I don't know, maybe you can chime in on how you use it, but for me, the difference between like ChatGPT and something like Copilot is I use ChatGPT at the beginning to help me work through the problem that I need to solve. But then when I have code and I need to sort of, oh, I need to know what was the syntax in this language for how you do this, like for in loop or whatever. That's a question that you can ask Copilot because it understands context, right? So it's better at knowing what you've already wrote, and it can give you suggestions on what you've already written and make you just it's better because you're already there. Whereas I think ChatGPT for me, it's been a little bit better when I'm like, I need to write a library that does this on Node.js, and it gives me some code that, of course, it's not 100% correct, and I need to continue to have a conversation with it to get it to where I need to go. But it gets me at a faster starting point than if I had to type all that stuff in myself. So, talk to me maybe about your experiences with those sort of like coding tools and how they can help you.
I would I would have to agree. I do feel like Copilot, GitHub Copilot, is very much geared and garnered towards the ideology of who like you already like know what you want to do,
Hmm.
but you need to figure out how to do what you already want to do.
Hmm.
Whereas Chat GPT, it can help you like, look, I want to do this, but I don't even know where to get started. And you're like, okay, let's help you formulate an idea and theories on that. Very like that was very interesting hearing how you use both, but you just have them solve different problems. I thought that was that's pretty cool. That makes me like, oh, I'm gonna try this over the weekend now. But that I think that's the biggest differentiator. I'm totally agreement of that. Like, Copilot is more once you already have things and you're in the weeds. Like, all right, I know what I want to do. How do I do it? And it's like, okay,
Hmm.
this is how here are 10 ways to do it. Pick the way that you want to do it the most, right? So that's very accurate.
Mm, super cool. Yeah, I think like a lot of these tools are interacting in a way that makes them more like pair programmers than tools to generate everything from scratch. And I think maybe the people that think that they're just going to take over haven't used them enough to understand that it's more of a conversation with somebody who can help you as opposed to having like it's not going to write a complete application for anything that you're asking it. It's not going to be correct. It's going to have all data from 2020. I mean, think about like that limitation right now, which I think is eventually going to go away, but that limitation of being trained on 2021 and earlier data, how fast does our programming things change that data is already, I mean, it's too old for us to really confidently use what some of these like it probably doesn't know what quick is, or it doesn't know about solid JS, or maybe it understands React, but it's maybe like old React. It doesn't understand like new React concurrency. So it's, can you trust it? It's a conversation. It can help. But if it's trained on old data, you got to watch out because it's good, but you're still going to be a developer. It's not creative to know whether what I love about chat. I made a joke like in one of these previous streams that sometimes it tells you something, but it does it so confidently that you're like, am I wrong about that code? Like that code doesn't look right. But is that me? Because it's really telling me that it confidently this is the right answer. So I made a joke that I call it Chad GPT, like the friend that you have that is confidently wrong all the time because they're always telling you like, oh yeah, I know, but they have no idea what they're talking about. So sometimes it does that, and so this is where we are. You gotta take into account its weaknesses, but it is helpful. It is so helpful that everybody's like already using it, right?
Yeah, that sounds like a few times the situation with my wife. I was telling her something, and I was so confident I was right. She's like, "You were wrong. You were just so wrong." And I was like, "Wow, you're absolutely right. My bad." So I've been
I
there.
haven't. I wonder
So
what it would do if we asked it like tabs versus spaces, like what it would say. It would probably have a flame war with itself or something. So,
it might just destroy itself.
yes, I argue with yourself or something. Maybe you could have it like on purpose, try to argue with itself about something. All right. So, what should people like if you're talking to somebody who maybe is in school or maybe is a developer? What would you say that people should do to prepare for this sort of coming future right now?
Use the tools within the parameters of what your job allows, or use the
Hmm.
tools on your free time. Right. That is the um, when I first started with things, I would, I have this project with Vetsu Code that I can go and, practice and play with whatever technologies I want, right? So I can, even if my job didn't allow me, I could go in here and play with Copilot, and that is
Hmm.
something that you really have to do. It's learning how to use AI with your work is a skill in itself. You have to understand your workflows and your own strengths and weaknesses. So that way you can amplify your strengths to match what is already strong for that Copilot or your
Hmm.
AI handles for you, right? Like, if, for instance, with Copy AI, it helps me become more flow better with my writing, but I still need to be a subject matter expert. So I need to know, I get to go further down the rabbit hole of the knowledge. So that way, Copy AI knows what I'm saying or knows,
Hmm.
I know what I'm saying. So Copy AI can know what to write, right? So like, that is one of the biggest things that I would tell people. Like, start using it, start playing around. Chat GPT, that's a great tool to play with, right? If you're on the fence, see what it is. The more you use it, um, the less dangerous it's going to look. You're going to know it's,
That's
okay,
right.
we're not, this won't be taking over the world anytime soon.
Yeah.
So, and, being able to leverage it though is what you really want to do, because with the next 5, 10 years, I tell my friends and people who want to get into code and technology, like, you're going to have to pick a side of the algorithm you want to be on. Like, everybody's going to have to pick a side. So you either want to be the person using the algos and get paid, or you want to be the person who the algos are used to monitor them as they're trying to get paid. Like, which one do you want to be, right? It's this difference between being a software engineer at at Amazon versus being at the, working in the Amazon warehouse, right? Where you have the technologies, where using technology to monitor you every step that they're doing,
Hmm.
right? So like, that's how I try to explain it to them. So start playing with the stuff, start leveraging it. Even little things, play with it. Use your kids as an experiment, like with it. Have
Hmm.
conversations with them, have them type in things, right? Make a like a goofy story using Chat GPT. It's perfect. I have a friend who's doing that with his kids now. They pick like random characters, have GPT make it, right? So like, that's a great first step. Don't take it serious,
uh,
just play.
I was really encouraged to hear that in my daughter's class. So she just started in college. Like she was getting an assignment to try it out and write something with it. And it's encouraging because I feel like encouraging people to experience what it does, I think, is really the thing to do right now, to encourage people. Hey, it's not going to be perfect, especially if you're a developer. It's not going to write all your code. But years ago, there was this like concept that I found a little bit annoying called like the 10x developer, like the developer that can like do everything perfectly. And maybe it isn't about the 10x developer, but maybe it's about the 2x Ray, or the 2x Jerome, or like like maybe we can get to 10x with some of these tools because, like you said, sometimes when you write something, and I do write a lot, and I didn't know that this was going to be like a thing for me. I thought I was going to, never would I have thought that I was going to be like writing so much in my life. But I have a style for writing, and sometimes it's just good to see somebody write in a different way. And sometimes there's like nobody around to do that with you. So this is a place where you can kind of, safely have a conversation about, hey, try this in a different style. Or I love it when you can tell ChatGPT, give me 10 examples of something. Or you can say, like, if you need some JSON, you can ask it, like, give me just some JSON data that I can stick into this API to test it out or whatever. Like you can really, you can even, I oftentimes, like, I'll just put in some code or put in some text and I'll say, give me, write this in different ways, or like you're saying, try to make it funnier, and it'll try. It's not very good at being funny, probably, like, but probably because people aren't good at that. But try,
Yeah,
the
you
important
have
thing
to
is to
have
try
capacity
things out.
training.
That's right. They should just like analyze her. That's
Yes,
great.
like put
Yes.
Cassidy Williams' TikTok, her whole TikTok,
Yeah.
into ChatGPT and then analyze
Yes.
it.
Yeah. Also, I think that what people are missing out too is like these things are APIs, and that's one thing that developers are very good at working with. So go explore some of the APIs and what they can do already. Maybe I think that one of the companies that you mentioned that does like the the AI generated images. Like you send a photo of yourself and it gives you like a
Canva.
bunch of different ways. Yeah,
Oh,
so that
Lensa.
Lensa. So Lensa, if you that's not an app that started out with that feature in mind. Like it wasn't the thing that if you look at their website is about like retouching and enhancing photos and so the app didn't start out that way. But they're like, oh, this happened to me when I was a developer, like doing a website. I had to do like this like small social media network like for this website, network of websites that we were doing, and I programmed a lot of features, and I programmed this one feature that it was like rate the like it was you could see different people's profiles and you can give them like a rating from 1 to 10. People went insane over that feature, and it was like a throwaway kind of feature that I did. I wasn't thinking about it. And it just shifted what I was doing because people loved it so much that I'm like, oh, I need to kind of experiment with it. So sometimes like that ability of taking what you're doing and being able to give me some other like thoughts. What am I not thinking? Make it funny, make it serious, write like a Twitter post or write like a LinkedIn post or whatever it is. I think sometimes like if you find the things that you could use help with and you use these tools to make you stronger in the future, it's actually going to train you to like maybe become a better writer, to think about those things that you're not thinking about. And in the end, it's just going to maybe 10x us or make us like better programmers or just people. I know that it's
Yeah,
helped me with like writing. So
that
yeah.
is absolutely true. That's how it happens, right? I've become a stronger writer by using it because, like, I'm seeing the mistakes that it's picking up. Especially, it gives me, I believe, Grammarly they do. At
Hmm.
least they send me an email of the mistakes that I make over and over again, so that way I can be conscious of it, and then
Hmm.
I can, get better with it. So I look forward to that weekly email of like, all right, you've done a lot of writing. Here's some mistakes that you make regularly. Here's what you need to work on. And I'm like, yo, that's awesome. And the same way with Copy AI, it showcases things that I've like, all right, this is where you've like started coming off as not confident. Let's rewrite this, right?
Hmm.
So I like those type of features where, oh, let's rewrite this for clarity. Like you could this sentence is too wordy. Let's make this sentence a little stronger, things of that nature, right? So it makes you a better writer over time. Same with your code. Like, okay, maybe this code isn't like when I'm using GitHub Copilot, I have a rule of scalability. Um, Scalability comes second, readability comes first. So
Hmm.
maybe if code is scalable, but it's too the brevity is if it's real brief,
Mm.
I'll throw in there and make sure it's more readable, right? Because I believe in writing code in a manner to where a junior developer can come and pick this up, right? Like, that's my, philosophy. I don't want to be one of those, I don't want to be the type of senior software engineer that I hated when I was coming up. So, like, that's my goal. Like, if the
They wrote
lingo
everything
or
in Perl, and it was like one line of completely unreadable code. Like everything
yes,
was,
if the performance is negligible, I'm always going to go for readability over
yeah.
brevity, right? So
That's
that
really
is
that's
the
really great.
thing. Yeah, that's the thing that I like using Copilot for. Is okay, how do I ensure that the code maintains its performance, is
Hmm.
scalable, but is more importantly readable to a mid to junior level developer, right? So
Super. That talk a little bit about that. Sort of a place that you started, the Vets Who Code. Tell us a little bit about what people can find here, and who it's for, and what sort of why you started this. This is really amazing.
yeah, Roger that. So Vetsu Code was started because my story itself. I was a Air Force veteran, left the military, thinking that I had the magic ticket of the DD 214, and I was going to be able to get any job I wanted. Come to find out that it was the height of a Great Recession, and there were no jobs for my skill set that I left the military for. So I was like, I need to skill up, do something. What else? What do I do? I saw this commercial about coding. Started learning SQL or SQL, whichever way you want to say it. And that was all she wrote for me. Well, I knew that was I was seeing a lot of other veterans that came out during my time and after that were having similar problems of transitioning into civilian sector because their jobs didn't have the skills. Even now, when I talk to veterans who have successfully transitioned into tech, they're like, "Where were you when I was coming out?" I was like, "I was right behind you, dude. Like, I don't know, like, why didn't you make it first? Like, don't come for me." So uh, that's what I decided to create. I was like, let's create a program where for absolute zero cost, veterans and military spouses, they can come in, they can learn how to write software with programmers who know how to write software. We focus on JavaScript because of its accessibility. It's one of the few things that you don't really need a lot of experience to be able to start playing with. So I created a syllabus, then went from the syllabus to going diving deeper into now I know what I want to teach. This is how we're going to teach it, focusing on let's have it mimic education with working at a company as much as possible. So they are in groups. We're making them use GitHub, leverage it heavily. We're doing a lot of those like a lot of those toolings as you see right there. Web developer tools, accessibility, tool chains, JavaScript, React Next. We're focusing um, on a lot of those tools and a lot of that work with trying to ensure that our veterans and our military spouses are employable, right? Because that's our number one priority is ensuring that the veterans are that they're employable first. And it's been a wild ride. Started in 2014. And to date, we've gotten $20.1 million in jobs
Mm,
come through
wow.
Vetsu Code. So last year, it was 1.4 million in salaries our veterans end up getting. So that it's been like a very it's my new adrenaline rush because in the military, yeah, I had a lot of things to adrenaline rush, but for me now, it's like I want to get more people in who are veterans, military spouses, jobs, and software engineers, as product managers, as product designers, as UX. Like I want more of that. Like that. That's my new energy, like my new adrenaline rush. I've had some crazy cool metrics. I have one person. The furthest I've ever gotten a person job was they were coming from Finland to back to the United States. They were a Army Special Forces candidate who also was a D1 cheerleader. Went to Finland to coach cheerleading there. Decided they want to come back home and have any applicable skills, so started teaching there. And then he came back home and started working as a software engineer in America. I have an Air Force veteran in Colombia who
Hmm.
is a product designer now, and we were teaching him from Colombia. I also have a South Korean Marine. He was the first veteran who was an Allied forces troop, who wasn't a U.S. troop, but allied from like the Republic of Korea military. We helped train him, and now he works in accessibility. So these are the type of things I do. But I also, I tell people all the time, like, I like the scary missions. I think that's what puts Vetsuko apart because we're not looking for the GI Bill. We're not looking for accepting any funding from the troop. We could take on those, scary missions that, a for-profit code school may, stay away from. Have a veteran who I think he's around 45, 46, that he's a software engineer now at a organization at Methodist Lebanon, and he's building tools and resources to help the hospital and help work with children. And it was very difficult for him to get into tech, but I was able to take that mission on to help him get in. Or I think one of the people that signed up to watch this right now, James Regan, he went to a code school, but he didn't have the support that he needed because he was in Hawaii. And I told him, we're going to try to get you employed by December. Well, he ended up signing his offer letter like December 19th, and things like that. So like
Mm,
that is, like I say, it's my adrenaline. It's my new
that's
adrenaline
awesome. I
rush.
can see it. I can hear it, man. I can hear the excitement. So we do have like a couple of questions that came in. I wanted to kind of get to those if I could.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have a question here from Dan Crenshaw who's saying, And hopefully you can help with this because I don't exactly know very much about Azure. But Azure's adding ChatGPT. What kind of DevOps tooling will be tied to it going forward? Do you have a lot of experience with ChatGPT in Azure? And that's brand new, isn't it?
Yeah, that's like within the last week, so we don't
Yeah.
really know when that's happening. Matter of fact, if I'm thinking of Chat GPT and the Azure services that are coming up, I am assuming that the greatest impact will be the Azure Cognitive Services first, since
Hmm.
Chat GPT works so well with taking what the human is writing and then turn it into something. So that's where I'm seeing the most initial impact of that within our Azure services. That's at least where I'm visualizing it. But
Hmm.
no one knows because this is all brand new. I'm
Hmm.
hoping that with Chat GPT, we'll be able to tell it more, especially with ASDO, to create the more basic thing that we need in Azure DevOps, and then be
Hmm.
able to change it as
Yeah,
we go
these
forward.
are like new days, so we'll see. So
Yeah, this is like
Rizel, probably
happened a
somebody
week
that
ago.
you so probably somebody you might know from GitHub, Rizel, who is amazing.
Oh,
She asked this question here: do you think AI will impact DevRel developer relationships in any way, positive or negative? So this is something you're probably more familiar with, right?
yeah, I think AI will impact DevRel, developer relations. I think it will impact it positively. It doesn't. I don't see a negative way how to do that if you're doing it correctly.
Hmm.
So, like, I think when it comes to building your projects, writing your blog posts, scripting your videos, prepping for your talks, like that, all that stuff is going to help you, help amplify you, right, and get your work
Hmm.
done faster, make you more productive, right?
Yeah, definitely. And Schuster Brown says something similar, something related here. That could be an extremely helpful tool for open source DevRel, speed up writing, forming content. Same things that you're saying, just writing with small demo apps. I think like it's just going to be huge everywhere, specifically like in education. So Rizel did reply here. I
He's one of
agree
my
with you.
students.
Oh, okay, cool. I agree with
Very
you.
funny story.
I've already
Like,
used to help it with blog posts. Yeah, there. It's funny that as the developer, like there's a lot more than just typing the code in. And I think that that's maybe some of the ways that it's going to help us. Like maybe you won't have to type as much code anymore. You're going to be more like a director and thinking more creatively about the solution as opposed to the mundane. Like we've all missed like a semicolon here and there or a comma. So frustrating. So like if it was able to do that, not maybe do that or debug that or immediately know what you tend to miss, then those are really huge helps.
or the spacing in YAML, because like
Yes.
YAML spacing is the bane of
YAML is
everybody's code.
beautiful, but a little bit rough sometimes with the spacing. Because yeah, do I need a hyphen here or is it a tab that I need to? Yeah, it's great if you have it like formatted, but it's like a little bit frustrating. So super awesome. We're probably a little bit over time here, but so we'll just say that we'll definitely make sure that you like and subscribe. The biggest thing you can do to support this show is follow some of these hashtags on LinkedIn. So TFI Tech is the main show hashtag. And then Learn Tech with LinkedIn is where you can find a lot more about our other instructors that are going to be doing content for us. So we definitely put a lot of free courses in there for you to watch. Definitely check that out. Below our names are our LinkedIn links if you want to connect with me or with Jerome. Make sure that you take advantage of that. And when you go to our profiles, definitely if you want to know what is coming up in this show, just go ahead and go to my profile and hit the notification icon. That's probably the best way to get notified about the next episode. Speaking of which, I wanted to say actually one more thing. We do have this really cool program at LinkedIn called LinkedIn for Vets. And basically, you get a free premium subscription. So you get all the benefits of LinkedIn, the premium version of LinkedIn, and you get to watch all the courses for free for a year. It's another fantastic program. I am so proud of my company for doing this. It's such a huge thing to help those people that serve us in such great ways. I mean, I'm really humbled to have you here today, Jerome, and very thankful for your service and everything the veterans do. So I am so
Thank you.
I can't tell you how proud I am to that a company that I belong to thinks about this and have this type of program. I wish everybody or all other companies did something similar. So next time we have another fantastic guest. We're continuing the conversation every week. So I'm hoping to do a new show every week. So if you want to, keep up with what's going on, next week we're talking to Ayodele Obudela, a data scientist, machine learning professional, and AI entrepreneur, about some of the ethical issues. I mean, ChatGPT, generative AI, it is really trailblazing through our culture. So I'm really looking forward to asking Ayodele about some of the issues that sometimes when you adopt things, you forget to think about whether you should adopt some things and what are the right questions that we should be asking about potential issues. So excited to have her next week. Thank you so much. Sorry, there was a little bit of a streaming problem on LinkedIn, so I'm glad people got to check it out on YouTube. I'll make sure that I post on LinkedIn the recording afterwards. Thank you so much again, Jerome, and we'll talk to you, around the block, my friend. Take care.
No problem, man. Thank you.
All right.